So essentially, we're talking about a 4-year stretch that the Migos have been considered this top trap group, establishing themselves as cultural figures within hip hop. That's incredible to be around for 4 to 5 years. Artists, if they're lucky, you'll dominate for a year. And it doesn't even feel like they skipped the beat to me. Like, it honestly feels like the Migos dropped last year. Either the culture has been keeping their sound afloat, or the Migos have just impacted us enough to where we're just ready to receive whatever the Migos drops. Ready to open it up and talk about our first topic, which is the release of the Migos Culture 3 project. This is a topic that came up, I think, 2 episodes ago for us, where we talked about, like, can the Migos reach new heights? What are we expecting out of Culture 3? Can they achieve what they were where they were about 3 years ago, in 3 to 4 years ago in the music industry, right? Where they were looked at as those dudes. Can they get back to that? And so I guess over the next couple of minutes, we're going to get at that, man. But also, in addition to that, breaking down the album itself. With that being said, Q, I'm going to give you the alley-oop here, man. What did you think of Culture 3?
You know what? First and foremost, I'm going to say something. I missed the hell out of Migos. Like, they've been gone. Maybe they weren't gone that long. I think their last album, Culture 2, came out, 2017, 18? But I feel like we were waiting for this Culture 3 album for quite some time. Now that they're back, I feel like the world is like back to normal again. Like, this is the Migos Culture 3 signifies that the pandemic is over. We can all go outside. We can all repo the cars of people that we no longer like anymore. All is good in the world. You know what's funny? We're going back to the discussion that we had a couple weeks ago about Migos and their evolution, or not their evolution, but I guess, can they still do what they did in the past? I think what's interesting about them is their first 2 Culture albums had distinct vibes to it. So Culture 1, which I think we can argue is a classic album. I think that was a very good album, and I think it really changed the game. Culture 2 was a lot more experimental. You got them rapping over like beatbox type beats, with Pharrell and Narcos and stuff like that. It was very experimental for them. Culture 3, I think, is a combination of both Culture 1 and Culture 2. Experimental a little bit, but then also, authentic trap vibes on it. I personally think the album is complete. I think it's entertaining, a little too long. It's dynamic. You got some really good features on there, really good performances on there, and the beats. Oh my gosh, the beats. I mean, all the people that were a part of the making of this album, all the producers. My goodness. Some songs, I just love the beats of some songs. Like, everybody on the internet and stuff like that are talking about Malibu. Yeah, Migos did their thing on Malibu. Polo G did their thing, but that beat, oh my God. Avalanche. And then not only is it the beats, but then the way the Migos are rapping on the beats, it's just like, my goodness, it's tight. One of the criticisms that I've been hearing online is that there's something missing, and I do get that. I feel like Quavo shines bright on this album for sure. I think Takeoff puts up a performance that's amazing. I mean, Takeoff, I said it on my album review. Go check it out, Ratings Game Music. On my album review for Culture 3, I said Takeoff raps as if, like, his spot on the Migos is on the line. Like, he raps as if he's interviewing for a position on the group. And I think that just brings out a hungry version of him. He shined on the track. But I think really what makes the album sound a little incomplete is I feel like Offset kind of coasted through the album, if you ask me. He did have some really deep verses. But for the most part, like I didn't see that super dynamic offset like that you would see on, for instance, IDK's joint that's popping right now. You didn't get to see that offset. But all in all, I think this album is good. I think it's if I were to give it a grade, I would give it a B minus. I think it doesn't live up to expectations, but like I always tell you all the time, when you're somebody like the Migos, you're never going to live up to expectations. Um, just because they put the expectations so high on you. But I do think it's a really good album. Musically is great, it's diverse, and it's entertaining.
So grade wise, what are you giving it?
I said B minus. Were you listening to me?
I was not. I tuned out because I disagreed with like 98% of the stuff you said. No, I'm kidding. No, I just missed the grade that you gave. My bad. Okay. All right. Yeah. No. Hey, listen. That's a solid grade. Obviously, listen. If you get a B grade, I don't give a damn what it is. What assignment, test, exam, homework. If I get a B, I'm happy. Yo, like for the most part, like it's not an issue. I think you're right on point with that. Here's the thing with the Migos. Even though we talked about that on the last, we mentioned that last topic, right? About how if the Migos can live up to what we expect from them. I think that like what I realized when this album dropped is that the Migos never left. They never left. Like, yes, their last album was in 2018 with Culture 2. Yes, that album was not the best because I would legitimately say Culture 3 disappointed because coming off the high of Culture 1, it felt like while there were songs that hit, it felt like as a body of work, we kind of expected more from the Migos. At least I did. I'll speak for myself. And so that album to me kind of let me down a bit. And then going back, Culture 1 came out 2017. So essentially, we're talking about a 4-year stretch that the Migos have been considered this top trap group, right? In the culture, establishing themselves as cultural figures within hip hop. Yo, that's incredible. Like, that's incredible to be around for 4 to 5 years and to be at the forefront. Like we know how this music stuff is nowadays, right? Artists, if they're lucky, you'll dominate for a year. If you're lucky, if you're like blessed, 2 years, 2 to 3 years max. We obviously see some exceptions, right? Of some people who've been on top for even longer than that. Drake, and he obviously won decade artist of the decade, which I think was deservedly given to him. But to me, this Migos Culture 3 album showed me a couple things. It showed me that the Migos have had their foot on, I think they've had their foot on the pedal as far as rap music for a while now. Secondly, these dudes is automatic. They don't miss like that. Like they to me are like the epitome of a machine. Like how is it that they can put out these type of quality songs at this rate? And it doesn't even feel like they skipped the beat to me. Like it honestly feels like the Migos dropped last year. Right? Like I don't know if that's a talent of theirs. I don't know if it's because we were waiting on the Migos. I don't know if it's because their impact is that strong. But to me, when they dropped that album yesterday, I listened to it. I was like, man, like either the culture has been keeping their sound afloat or the Migos have just impacted us enough to where we're just ready to receive whatever the Migos drops. Like I think it's the latter for me. They've done enough for me in the history of their, I guess, careers since how long they've been popping for me to really be here for all the music that they drop. And so with that being said, here goes some of my favorite songs from the project. This is in no order, by the way. So number 1, Avalanche. The album starts off with Avalanche. I think the video is even more fire than the song is, but whatever. I'm sure y'all like the song as well. They actually dropped that song, I believe, a day or two before the album dropped. The visuals are cool. I also like that song Malibu with Polo G. It was cool. It was cool. It was cool. I do think it was a standout. I'm not about to sit here and say it was the best song on the album, but I think it's one of the better songs on the project from a production, just energy standpoint, everything. They came with it. Of course, we can't. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Drake. I think Drake dominated that song, "Having Our Way," to the point where I'm asking myself, like, where was this Drake? Where has this Drake been at? We over here. How the hell is Drake getting Artist of the Decade, and he delivering performances like he did on "Having Our Way"? Like that joint made me think: is Drake going to go on another run? That's the type of energy that Drake came with on that song. You know what I'm saying? And so I can name a whole bunch of other songs, but just know that, like, I think this album is more than solid. There were a couple misses towards the end of the album, like for example, Mahomes, Why Not, Handle My Business, Time for Me. Like it kind of fell flat towards the end, but I think they had enough impactful songs on this project to remind me, you, the listeners, the world, that they may have been right when they said they were the culture number one, and they may have been right to be on their own dick like they have been this entire time. Like they are them dudes, for real.